Chosen one, people crash out when your name is mentioned because you're not who they thought you were. Some are having full spiritual breakdowns when someone brings you up, and it isn't random. What you don't see yet is that while others are crashing out behind you, an army is forming ahead of you. Real allies, real loyalty. And the moment you stop looking backward, you'll feel the shift in your money, health and creativity. But first, chosen one, you must release the last pieces of energy chaining you to the past. The person you're holding resentment toward operates this way with everyone. This is the entire programming. Monkey branching from person to person, never healing, never alone, always jumping before landing. And you got caught in that cycle. But here's the shift. You're not being isolated as punishment. You're being prepared. And there's a massive difference between the loneliness others run from and the solitude you're being refined in. You're going through a heart activation. This is the part where you stop fighting evil with evil, where you stop waiting for someone else's downfall to validate your worth. Because divine justice operates on a frequency you can't access while drowning in resentment. And I'm about to tell you something that's going to change everything. The vindication you're waiting for won't come through if you're standing at anyone's door saying, "I told you so." When karma does unfold, and it will, you'll be so elevated you'll barely notice. You might even feel compassion, not because you're weak, but because you've evolved past needing anyone's suffering to feel whole. And that evolution is what triggers the real shift. The shift that brings in loyal hearts. The shift that unlocks your finances, the shift that supercharges your creativity. But you have to do something first. You have to pray for forgiveness, not for anyone else, for yourself, for getting excited about downfalls, for checking social media in the middle of the night, for bleeding energy into revenge fantasies that belong to your future, because every second you spend in hatred is a second you're not spending building what's coming. And chosen one, what's coming is too big to carry bitterness into. The people who burned you are obsessed with you. Shadow competitors, secretly watching everything you do, hoping you fail, praying you crash, analyzing your every move. And here's the revelation that's going to set you free. When you don't crash, when you keep rising, something fundamental breaks in those watching, because your success is proof nobody was ever the prize. Your healing is evidence nobody was ever necessary. And this is where it gets deep. Certain people don't actually like you. I know that hurts. But everybody around you can see it except you. You're kept around so others can feel superior. Smiles in your face, plots in your absence. And the reason I'm calling this out is because you're about to become very popular. You're about to step into social circles where you need to distinguish between real and fake immediately. Because there are people looking forward to seeing you, and there are people watching your every move waiting for you to slip. The spells are breaking. Generational curses on your eating habits, your health, your finances, your creativity. All of it is shattering right now. And the more you release resentment, the faster everything falls away. Because resentment is the frequency that locks you in cycles. Forgiveness is the frequency that detonates them. And when you forgive, not for anyone else but for you, something miraculous happens. The vindication starts chasing you instead of you chasing it. You're about to find tranquility, so deep that people feel it radiating off you. A state of calm that doesn't react to chaos. But to access that frequency, you have to release the false belief that this is your pattern, that you always end up with the wrong people, that you always get betrayed. No, you are the generational curse breaker. This cycle ends with you, right here, right now. With this decision, you are meant to be here. You surviving everything you survived wasn't random. You are meant to reach every goal you've set. You are meant to exceed every expectation. And there's a community waiting for you to show up fully. These people are excited about this new version of you. Your message is needed. Your testimony is required. But you have to stop performing for people who don't deserve your authenticity. You're calling in peace now. Real peace. You're admitting the truth. Yeah, I regret that connection. Yeah, I was waiting for karma. But I'm not doing that anymore, and that admission is the key that unlocks everything, because the enemy wants you stuck in resentment. Resentful people don't rise. You stay stagnant, replaying old wounds, locked in mental prisons you built yourself, but you're choosing differently. You're calling in loyal hearts. You're calling in divine protection. You're calling in a higher power because you finally understand you can't do this alone. And the moment you say, I need help letting this go, the floodgates open. The vindication you were chasing starts manifesting without your manipulation. The justice you were demanding starts unfolding on its own timeline. Now pay attention, because this is crucial. You're going to start listening for what people don't say. You're intuitive, you've always been, but you haven't been honoring that gift. You've ignored red flags to believe in people. You've dismissed your gut to avoid seeming paranoid. But moving forward, you're going to trust yourself. When someone's energy doesn't match their words, you're going to feel it. And instead of overriding that knowing, you're going to protect your peace by walking away. Someone's going to try to come back. Carefully crafted apologies will arrive, and I'm telling you now, it's too late. Not because you're bitter, but because you've seen the pattern. You've seen the approach only happens when something is needed, or when you're seen thriving, when new situations fail, when realization hits about what was lost, and you're not going back because you're protected now. Operating under a higher power that doesn't allow backdoor entries from people who couldn't value you at full access. You might be feeling physically hot lately. That's not random. That's your frequency elevating. You're burning off old soul ties, old attachments, old density, and it's uncomfortable because transformation always is. But you need emotional balance to let real love in, not the counterfeit version you've been accepting, not the crumbs you've been calling a meal. You're going to know you're around the right people when your money shifts. Think about when you were around that last person. How were your finances? Draining mysteriously, confused about where everything went. That's because you were in the wrong cycle, wrong people, wrong frequency. Your abundance was blocked. But when you align with your true tribe, your finances transform, opportunities appear, things click, abundance flows, and what you do is undeniable. You have gifts that can't be faked, but sometimes you see a dip in confidence, a dip in finances, a dip in creativity. And that dip isn't failure, it's preparation. It's the valley before the mountain, the crouch before the jump. So be grateful when people show you who really are. That clarity is protecting you from wasting more time in the wrong place. If this message aligned with your purpose, hype this video so fellow chosen ones can find their confirmation. The people looking forward to seeing you see you as a protector, a provider, a leader, fiercely independent. Your presence makes others feel safe, protected, and maybe you're angry at yourself for dropping your guard with someone who didn't deserve it. But that's not poor judgment, that's data. The universe showing you who not to trust moving forward. You were around someone affecting your health, finances, and creativity simultaneously. The holy trinity of your well-being was under siege. But now that cord is cut, all of it is about to be supercharged. You'll feel inspired again, ideas flooding in, your body lighter, your bank account reflecting your worth, and you'll realize you weren't failing, you weren't broken, you were just in the wrong environment. This transformation is going to look incredible on you. People will notice, questions will come about what changed, and you won't know how to explain because it's everything. The way you walk, the way you set boundaries without explaining, the way you say no without guilt, the way you choose yourself without apologizing. You're planting different seeds now, remembering who you are, and it's intimidating to people who preferred the dimmed version. Your curiosity is being reignited, that childlike wonder returning. You'll start learning, reading, and exploring again, and people will be fascinated, shocked by how much you know, how deep you think, how intentional every move is. Because the version people thought existed was a shadow. This version emerging now is the full truth, and truth is always more captivating than fiction. You're about to showcase something There's a message inside you that's been incubating, a way of living, a perspective only you can offer, and you need to share it, not for fame, not for validation, but because specific people desperately need to hear it. Your story is required, your testimony is necessary. People need to know transformation is possible even after betrayal, even after everything falls apart. If you've been feeling unstable, scattered, unfocused, it's because you're distracting yourself. Music and television simultaneously, filling every silent moment with noise because you don't want to be alone with your thoughts. But those distractions are blocking divine guidance, drowning out the voice trying to give you direction. Quiet the noise, sit with yourself in silence, listen to what rises when everything else falls away. That's where your breakthrough lives, that's where your next level exists, that's where the answers wait to be discovered. Pay attention to your dreams, the visions are becoming vivid, crystal clear, prophetic. You'll remember everything because you're finally getting real rest, the kind that comes when you stop fighting battles that were never yours, when you release people who were never meant to stay. Your sleep improves because your conscience is clear, your mind quiet, your spirit aligned. You're supposed to become popular now, not shallow popularity, but influence expanding, impact amplifying popularity. You're supposed to spread information, love, hope, truth. You're supposed to be light in spaces that have been dark too long, and the divine will help with your anxiety, especially social anxiety, because you're making room for caring connections, real connections, people who genuinely want to know you, who see your value and protect it. Deep healing is happening in your creative center, your intimacy, your motivation. Everything has been blocked, shut down, hard to feel stimulated, motivated, trusting of intimacy, because last time you opened up you got burned. But that's changing. You're being healed, restored, renewed. Soon vulnerability won't feel like a death sentence. It'll feel like a gift you give people who've proven worthiness. You're going to share your strength and testimony. Be the sun in rooms that only knew clouds. People have been waiting. Some are missing you. Others have never met anyone like you, but have been searching. And when you show up fully, unapologetically, authentically, it'll feel like the first warm day after the longest winter. So here's what you do. Let go. Let go of people who didn't see you. Let go of resentment, poisoning your present. Let go of the need for revenge, stealing your future. Let go of the fantasy that someone's karma will heal your wounds. It won't. Only your peace heals you. Only your alignment restores you. Only your commitment to becoming your highest self completes you. When you finally release this weight, you'll feel lighter than you've felt in a long time, maybe ever. You'll feel free, and that freedom attracts everything you've been praying for, everything you've been working toward, everything you've been dreaming about. When you let yourself hope, you're not who people thought you were, never were. You were underestimated, misjudged. Your kindness was confused for weakness, patience for desperation, silence for acceptance. But you were gathering data, observing, watching, and now you have everything you need to move differently, choose differently, be different. Let me tell you exactly why your name causes such violent reactions now. When people mention you in conversations, those who thought they knew you experience cognitive dissonance so severe it manifests as rage. An entire identity was built around being the person who had power over you, the one who could predict your moves, the one who kept you in check. And now that identity is crumbling because you've become unpredictable, unknowable, untouchable. You're operating on a frequency others can't even perceive anymore. The old station is what's being tuned to, the old version, and all that's coming through is static. That static is maddening, because deep down the truth is known. It means you've ascended to a level where outside opinions are irrelevant, outside approval is unnecessary, outside validation is worthless. Someone says your name casually, maybe asking how you've been, and the person who burned you freezes. The whole body tenses, the jaw clenches, and a choice has to be made in that split second. Pretend not to care, badmouth you to control the narrative, change the subject entirely. Every option is self-exposing. Every response reveals that you still occupy mental space rent-free. And the worst part for those watching is that other people in the room can see it. The crash out happening in real time is visible. The forced casualness, the bitter edge in the voice, the need to diminish you to elevate themselves. And it doesn't work, because the truth is radiating off you from wherever you are. People can feel that you've changed, that you've upgraded, that you're no longer available for the same old games. Now let's talk about what you've been reclaiming without even realizing it. Your power, your voice, your right to take up space. For so long you edited yourself, you made yourself smaller in conversations, you downplayed your achievements so others wouldn't feel intimidated, you dimmed your light to make insecure people comfortable, and it cost you everything. It cost you opportunities because you didn't speak up when you should have. It cost you respect because people sensed your lack of boundaries. It cost you energy because performing a lesser version of yourself is exhausting, but you're not doing that anymore. You're reclaiming every piece of power you gave away out of fear or conditioning or the desperate need to be liked. And this reclamation is what's really triggering the crash-outs, because powerful you is dangerous to fragile egos. Powerful you doesn't need outside approval. Powerful you doesn't chase attention. Powerful you doesn't beg for scraps of affection from people who should be grateful you even looked in their direction. When your name comes up now and crash-outs happen, what's really being said is, I can't control this person anymore, and it terrifies me. The admission is clear that the power dynamic has shifted so drastically the game isn't even recognizable anymore, because you're not playing. You've left the entire arena. You're building a completely different empire in a completely different location, and certain people weren't invited. Watch how power gets sought again, though. Rumors will spread. Attempts will be made to turn mutual connections against you. Entire fictional narratives about who you are and what you did will be created. And here's the test. Can you let it happen? Can you allow the storytelling without needing to defend yourself? Because your real ones already know the truth. The people meant to be in your life don't need you to prove anything. This is the ultimate power move. Silence. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of someone who knows worth doesn't require external validation. You're not arguing. You're not defending. You're not even paying attention. You're too busy building, creating, healing and ascending to engage with people who are still stuck in the basement of their own limited perspective. People crash out when your name is mentioned because the knowledge hits that something irreplaceable was lost. Something was fumbled and thrown away for something temporary. Another you will never be found. And that knowledge, that regret, that soul-crushing realization will be a haunting forever. But that's not your burden. That's not your responsibility. You just keep walking, rising, transforming, becoming everything you were created to be. Your story isn't over, it's beginning. The first chapter was survival, the second awakening. But this chapter you're stepping into now is thriving, abundance, vindication. And it's going to be so beautiful, so abundant, so aligned with your soul's purpose that everyone who doubted you will wish the choice had been different. Everyone who walked away will carry regret. Everyone who underestimated you will see exactly what was missed. But by then you'll be so elevated, the reach won't be possible. Apologies won't make it to your altitude. Regrets won't penetrate your peace. Realizations won't disturb your tranquility. And that's exactly how it should be, exactly how it was always meant to be. Look, you already know the attacks weren't random, and if you're paying attention, you can feel it. Their walls are closing in. So let's talk about what we're doing about it. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the dark elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve cooperative intelligence. What does know? The beauty is you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and your subconscious is rewired while your enemies collapse under the weight of their own lies. This is why I created it in the beginning, so everything they did to break you becomes fuel for your purpose. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your destiny engine for $1 today and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. You're not who people thought you were. You never were. A projection was seen, a fantasy, a version of you that existed only in limited perception. The assumption was made that you would always be available, always be controllable, always be predictable, but you were a sleeping giant mistaken for a doormat, a caged lion confused for a house cat, a diamond treated like dirt, and now you're awake, now you're free, now you're shining. And the brightness of your authentic self is blinding to people who preferred you in darkness. That's not your problem anymore. That's not your responsibility to manage. You have a choice right now. You can keep looking back at the crash-outs, analyzing why everything is happening, trying to understand people who will never understand themselves. Or you can turn around completely, face forward, lock eyes with your future, and walk into it with the confidence of someone who knows worth isn't determined by who couldn't see it. The crash-outs will continue. Let them happen. Your name will keep causing chaos in rooms you've outgrown. Let it unfold. People will keep telling stories about who you are to make themselves feel better about losing you. Let them speak. Because while crash-outs are happening, you're ascending. While spirals are occurring, you're soaring. While explanations are being crafted about why you're gone, you're building a life so beautiful recognition wouldn't be possible if it was seen. And just like I told you at the beginning, you were hours away from something massive, and now you know what it is. It's not someone else's karma, it's your freedom. It's not someone else's downfall, it's your rise. It's not someone else's regret, it's your peace. That crash out you're hearing in rooms you're not in. That's the sound of people realizing the bridge taken for granted just became a mountain that can never be climbed. Access to you was a privilege that got abused. Your patience was a gift that got exploited. Your presence was a blessing that got cursed. You didn't change to hurt anyone. You changed to save yourself. You didn't grow to prove anyone wrong. You grew because staying small was killing you. You didn't level up to make anyone regret choices. You leveled up because you finally realized you deserved better than what you were accepting. You're not who people thought you were. You're so much more, and you're never going back. This is your moment to become everything you were created to be, without the weight of people who never deserved to witness it in the first place. So let the crash-outs happen. Let the spirals continue. Let the regret build. You have a destiny to fulfill, and it doesn't include spectators who confused your stage for their playground. The mountain you've become is unclimbable to people who only know how to tear others down, and that's exactly how it should be. You're protected now by elevation, by evolution, by evolution, by the simple fact that you finally know who you are, and chosen one. That knowledge is the key to everything you've been praying for. Everything you've been working toward, everything you've been becoming. Welcome home to yourself, the real you, the powerful you, the you that was always there, just waiting for permission to emerge. You gave yourself that permission, and now nothing will ever be the same. You want to know how you'll recognize when you're in the right rooms with the right people? It won't just be your finances shifting, though that's a major indicator. It'll be the way conversations flow when you're present. People will actually listen when you speak. No interruptions, no waiting for their turn to talk. Genuine engagement with what you're saying, because your perspective is valued. This is drastically different from what you experienced before. Remember how you used to share ideas and people would dismiss them, only to claim those same ideas as their own later. In your new circles, your presence is enough. You don't have to perform. You don't have to shrink. You don't have to make yourself palatable. The people who are genuinely excited to see you won't just tell you once. Your value will be shown consistently. Space will be made for you in their lives. Your name will be protected when you're not in the room. Your character will be defended when someone tries to rewrite history. These are the people who saw the real you all along, even when you couldn't see it yourself. But you have to be willing to recognize them. You have to be willing to receive that kind of authentic love. And that's hard when you've been conditioned to accept crumbs, when you've normalized dysfunction, when you've convinced yourself that chaos is just how relationships work. It's not. Real connection is peaceful. It's easy. It flows without force. The crash-outs you're hearing about, those are coming from people who can't believe you've found that peace. The fact that you're experiencing ease in areas where struggle was witnessed is incomprehensible. And instead of celebrating for you, spirals are happening because your healing highlights stagnation. Your growth exposes refusal to change. Your peace reveals addiction to drama. You're about to start noticing patterns in who reaches out when you post success, who goes silent when you share wins, who suddenly has an emergency every time something good happens for you. These are the energy vampires who were feeding off your struggle. Broken you was comfortable, confused you felt safe, struggling you made others feel superior. But thriving you, that version threatens entire self-concepts. The more you thrive, the more intense the crash-outs become. Every win you experience feels like a personal attack to certain people. Every blessing you receive feels like something that should have belonged to someone else. Every level you ascend to feels like evidence that a catastrophic mistake was made. And a catastrophic mistake was made. The most real connection that might have ever existed was fumbled because control was valued over connection, ego over authenticity, comfort over growth. Watch how the narrative shifts when you're not available to control anymore. Suddenly you're the villain in stories you weren't even present for. You're the problem in situations you had no part in creating. You're the reason for failures that existed long before you arrived. And the storytelling gets more elaborate the higher you rise, because your elevation requires explanation. Your success demands justification. Your peace needs to be explained away. You don't owe anyone your stagnation to make them feel better about their own. You don't owe anyone your brokenness to validate their choice to stay broken. You don't owe anyone your presence in spaces where your absence is the greatest gift you can give. Something is crystallizing in you right now. Boundaries, real boundaries, not the kind you apologize for, not the kind you negotiate, not the kind you explain until someone finally gives you permission to have them. Boundaries that exist because you said so, period. And these boundaries are what's really causing the meltdowns when your name comes up. Because boundaries mean certain people can't access you the way the assumption was made that access would always exist. Boundaries mean manipulation doesn't work anymore. Boundaries mean guilt trips fall flat. Boundaries mean you've chosen yourself in a way that makes it impossible for anyone else to unchoose you. Watch what happens when you enforce these boundaries without wavering. The crash-outs intensify, the stories get wilder. The attempts to paint you as cold, heartless, changed become more desperate. Good. Let them paint that picture. Because cold to someone who expected you to set yourself on fire to keep them warm is actually just healthy. Heartless to someone who expected unlimited access to your heart without reciprocation is actually just wise. Change to someone who benefited from you staying the same is actually just growth. You're learning something powerful. You're learning that you can be misunderstood and still be at peace. You can be misrepresented and still sleep well. You can be the villain in someone else's story and still be the hero in your own. And that's the freedom that changes everything. You weren't being loyal when you tolerated disrespect to keep the peace. You were being complicit in your own mistreatment. You weren't being loyal when you ignored red flags to maintain connections. You were being dishonest with yourself about what you were willing to accept. You weren't being loyal when you stayed in situations that drained you. You were being afraid of what leaving might cost you. Real loyalty is mutual. Real loyalty is reciprocal. Real loyalty doesn't require you to destroy yourself to prove you care. And the people crashing out when your name is mentioned, the loyalty expected from you was never offered to you. The dedication demanded from you was never demonstrated toward you. The commitment required from you was never reciprocated. So when accusations fly about how you've changed, how you're not loyal anymore, how you abandoned ship, remember this: you didn't abandon anything worth staying for. You evacuated a sinking ship that the captain refused to repair, and your loyalty is now where it should have always been. With yourself, with your peace, with your future. There's a frequency separation happening that explains why your name causes such violent reactions. You're vibrating at a level now that's incompatible with where you used to be. And people who are still operating at that old frequency can feel the dissonance. It's uncomfortable for them. It's disorienting. It makes them question everything about their own choices. When your name comes up, it's like a tuning fork that exposes how out of alignment certain people are. Your growth reveals their stagnation. Your peace highlights their chaos. Your clarity exposes their confusion. And instead of using that as inspiration to change, the reaction is to try to drag you back down to the old frequency. But you can't go back. Even if you wanted to, you can't. Once you've experienced this level of peace, this level of clarity, this level of alignment, the old frequency feels suffocating. The old patterns feel intolerable. The old dynamics feel poisonous. You've been awakened to what's possible, and going back to sleep isn't an option. This is why the crash-outs are actually gifts. Every time someone loses their composure at the mention of your name, you're getting confirmation that you've successfully separated from a frequency that was never meant for you. Every time someone spirals over your success, you're receiving validation that you're on the right path. Every time someone tries to pull you back into old dynamics, you're being reminded why you left in the first place. So here's where we arrive, at the final liberation. The place where you realize that the crash-outs happening in your absence have nothing to do with you and everything to do with the people experiencing them. You're simply living your life, growing, healing, evolving, becoming, and the fact that your transformation triggers such intense reactions in others is not your burden to carry. You are not responsible for managing how people process your growth. You are not responsible for shrinking so others feel bigger. You are not responsible for staying broken so others feel less alone in their brokenness. You are not responsible for the stories people tell themselves about why you're no longer available to them. Your only responsibility is to yourself, to your healing, to your peace, to your purpose. And every day you wake up and choose yourself, you're fulfilling that responsibility in the most beautiful way possible. The crash-outs will continue. Your name will keep causing disruption in spaces you've outgrown. The stories will keep getting told. The narratives will keep shifting. And none of it matters. Because while all of that is happening in rooms you're not in, you're building an empire in spaces where you're celebrated. You're cultivating peace in environments where you're valued. You're creating a life so aligned with your truth that outside opinions become background noise. You're not who people thought you were. You never were. You were always this powerful, always this capable, always this worthy. You just needed to remember. And now that you have, now that you've reclaimed your power and stepped into your truth, there's no force on earth that can convince you to go back to pretending to be less than you are. This is your time, this is your season, this is your liberation, and it's so much sweeter because you chose it. You fought for it. You refused to settle for less than you deserved until you finally received everything you were created for. So let them crash out. Let your name be the earthquake that shakes foundations built on lies. Let your transformation be the mirror that exposes everyone who preferred you dim. Let your peace be the proof that leaving was the best decision you ever made. You're awake, you're free, you're powerful, and you're never going back.